Alright legends, welcome along to Here's Rodder's Reviews. We're getting into the X-Men Season 1, the original run, with an episode entitled Slave Island. Great little episode. And as we know, the X-Men, to the best of my knowledge, was one of the very few cartoons back in the 80s and 90s. Well, I think I'm going too early in the 80s. But continued an entire story throughout the run of the season. At the end of the last episode, of course, Gambit, Storm, and Jubilee were captured on Genosha. So we get to see that story playing out in this episode. You get very little from the rest of the X-Men. Essentially, they can't get in contact with the three of them, so they get on the jet to come and help them, but they don't show up to the end of the episode. Back in Genosha, we discover that Trask and Gyrick have once again started up the Sentinel program on Genosha. They're trying to build a dam to power Master Mold, a giant Sentinel that can create smaller Sentinels. So they are put to work on the island along with a whole load of other X-Men, well, I was going to say X-Men, mutants that have been captured as well. So there's a whole list of names here for all our mutants that are in this episode. We get the first look at Mystique. She's actually one of the slaves on the island. But for me, knowing where this episode or where this series goes, I'm not sure whether this was actually supposed to be the Mystique or a similar character, because she does indeed turn up at one point later on in the series, so I'm not 100% sure this is actually her in this episode because of what Professor X is actually doing. He doesn't come with the X-Men to rescue the three of them. He has other plans to go to Scotland. He gets in contact with somebody in Scotland for something that he's trying to do. So I was just trying to find the name. He refers to a woman in Scotland he's trying to get hold of, and just say it's an old friend that's calling. So that's pretty much all you see of him in this episode. So back on the island, the mutants that are captured have these collars put on them that can strip them of their mutant powers, so they're completely at the hands of Gyrick and his goons in this episode. They're only allowed to use their powers to help in the building of this dam, and if they do try to use their powers, the collars are going to be turned back on again. They're going to get punished. So as soon as the collars is turned off for them to start work, of course, Storm makes a break for it, tries to fight her way out. Gambit stops Jubilee from helping her. Storm is quickly brought down, the collars turned back on, she loses her power, and of course she's captured by a Sentinel again, and she's put into this box as punishment. They were going to flat out kill her, but Gambit steps in and, reasons with Gyrick and says, you don't know what she can do. She can make it rain like a massive storm. She could fill this dam in no time. So they let her live, but they throw her into this box, and of course she's got the claustrophobia, so she's freaking out majorly. Jubilee is not sure what's going on with Gambit in this episode. She's, why aren't you trying to help her, sort of a thing. So Gambit, in this episode, he's just been a bit of an ass anytime something comes up. That night in the cells, Jubilee is trying to plan an escape, and she manages to get out of her cell and comes to Gambit, and she's like, I've got a plan to get out of here, and runs through whatever she's planning on doing. And he just flat out refuses at this point, go and tell the rest of them yourself. Nobody likes me anyway, sort of a thing. So she does. She goes around the rest of the the inmates. This is during a power outage that's explained the following day. Do you know, so it was in the middle of a blackout because of Master Mold and Gyrick and those guys trying to build sentinels so that they need this independent source of energy from this dam to keep going. But the blackout the night before she gets out, goes to the other mutants and tries to run her plan past them, and she's pretty much, you know, they tell her to, you know, wise up sort of thing. They're going to let us go once the work's done. But, you know, that's not the case either. But the next morning, they tell her that, okay, we're with you. You know, whenever you say go, we're behind you 100%. During the night, they think it over. Okay, it's a slim chance, but we'll try it anyway. They realise at this point that Gambit isn't in the cell. We discover that he was taken away the night before, so he's taken to the people that are running the whole thing in this. So you've got Trask, you've got Gyrick, you also have this guy known as Leader, who is kind of in control of all of it, you know. And then there's Cameron Hodge, he's like a secretary to this guy. So they interrogate Gambit for a bit, but yeah, they eventually just send him back to the dam to go back to work. He manages to escape on the way back with the help of Cable. This guy Cable shows up he's like an army guy, giant guns, the whole works, and he takes out the patrol is taking Gambit back, and Gambit asks him, can you help me save the rest of the mutants? But all he does is he throws him this key that he got off one of the guards a few days before it, and this unlocks the collar that Gambit's wearing. But Cable has his own agenda in this episode. We discover that he was part of an army that this guy, the Leader, had, and when Cable realised that Leader wasn't the source of freedom that he thought he was, he threw his paycheck back in the guy's face and swore revenge on him. So he's going after Leader and the rest of them. At the end of the episode, Gambit gets back and of course gets the rest of the mutants freed, and then they, you know, get into the fight with the Sentinels, which you always love to see in the X-Men, is the Sentinel fights. That's what I enjoyed about season 1 anyway, back in the day. And still, right now at 45 years old, loving it. But yes, there's a good showdown at the end of the episode. The mutants escape, collars deactivated with the help of Gambit, Storm and Jubilee. And Jubilee isn't happy whenever she realises who it is that's rescued them. At this point she's been thrown into the box along with Storm after her failed attempt at an escape with the rest of the mutants. And she's screaming at him, you know, why did you let me think you were a traitor, sort of a deal. But by the end of the episode, the mutants escape. Storm uses her powers to take out the dam, but she's not at full strength. She's been stuck in this box for a couple of days at this point, and as the dam is starting to break apart, she falls, and at that, Rogue shows up and catches her in midair, and you see Cyclops and the Jet there. So that's pretty much it. They get on the Jet to escape. The only other thing in this episode that happens at the end is Cable has finally had a showdown with the Leader and his secretary, and at that point they are captured in the middle of the wave of water that's come from this dam that has taken out the whole building, the whole headquarters and whatnot. Master Mold apparently gets taken out at this point. He tries to escape the giant robot that makes the smaller robots, but he's still plugged into the mainframe, so he can't get away. And of course the water comes in, destroys everything along with all the Sentinels around him. And the last you see of Cable as him holding the Leader, watching this torrent of water coming towards him, and he's just laughing. And that's it. As far as you know, in this episode, they've been swept away and killed. But yeah, of course, that's been the X-Men universe. You never know what's going to happen with them. But back in the jet, all the X-Men are together again. Jubilee's giving Gambit a bit of abuse again for making her think that he was a traitor, and he's kind of like, oh, what makes you think I'm not? Sort of thing. So that's what you love about the X-Men characters. They're heroes, but at the same time, they're kind of anti-heroes as well. Like there's no real clear-cut good or bad sort of thing. There's kind of like a darkness in a lot of the characters in the X-Men universe, and that's what I love about this sort of thing. You know, especially like Wolverine. You know, he could just like snap your fingers. He could be a bad guy or a good guy, just depending on his frame of mind. It's class. Love it. So on the way back, they're trying to radio Professor X at the mansion. They're getting no reply, and when they do get to the mansion, they see that it has been completely destroyed at this point, and there's no response, of course, from Professor X. So the episode shuts out there, and it was good. Enjoyed this one, fantastic. And it's been far too long since I got a video up on the channel doing this series, but there's a reason for that I may get into at some point whenever we finish the run of season 1 of X-Men. So that's going to do it. Until the next one, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all then.